Hey there, welcome to Agrazia's virtual studio. My name is Amanda. I am a 500-hour certified Pilates instructor and corrective exercise specialist. In this routine, we're going to be focusing on low back mobility. So there's going to be some gentle movement for the low back and also some corrective exercise techniques to help activate our hamstrings, which is going to set our pelvis up into better alignment to downregulate some of those low back muscles that tend to get really tight and stiff and overactive. And that will help hopefully alleviate some of that pain and stiffness that you're feeling. If you are recovering from a low back injury, first make sure that you're cleared by either your physical therapist or your doctor. But this is a great routine for transitioning from your PT if you're looking to go into some more regular exercise. So a great bridge from your rehabilitation. Let's get started lying on our backs. All you need is a mat, so something soft to lay on, and then we are going to be using the wall today. All right, so I am lying down on my back with my knees bent, feet are flat on the ground and in line with my sit bones. My feet are facing the wall because it's going to help for a smoother transition into our next exercise. Let's put our arms down by your sides. If you feel like you want a little bit more feedback, you can place your hands on your hips. And we're just going to start with some pelvic tilts here. So just gently rocking back and forth, gently rounding your low back, and then arching it the other way. So find a pain-free range of motion here. And we're just introducing some movement. Nothing crazy, it doesn't have to be big, and nothing too strenuous either. We're just trying to soften our spine into the mat. You can even think about massaging that low back on the floor. And then find a neutral. So everyone's neutral looks a little bit different, but you're going to just let your pelvis rest where it feels the most natural. And then imagining that there's a bowl of water right on your low belly here. I want you to try to spill that bowl of water towards your nose. And this is our posterior pelvic tilt. Okay, so this is going to be a position we're going to be working in a lot today. Then I want you to spill that bowl of water over to the right. And then spill the water towards your feet. Spill over to the left. And then back towards you. So we're just taking a circle in the hips here. We're going to continue rolling to the right, towards your feet, towards the left, and then back into your posterior tilt. Let's take 2 more circles this way. It doesn't have to be perfect, but ideally we're going to keep our leg bones in place so those knees stay pointing up towards the ceiling the entire time. We're going to take 1 more rotation in this direction. Nice and smooth, slowing down here. Back to that posterior tilt and hold. Now we're going to reverse it. So spill that bowl of water to the left, towards your feet, to the right, back to your posterior tilt. We're going to take 3 more rotations here. Letting your chest stay soft, ribs stay heavy into the mat. So we don't want to overarch our back to where our ribs are flaring out to the sides. Just movement in the pelvis. 1 more rotation here. Come back to your posterior tilt and roll back into your neutral pelvis. All right, now we're going to walk our feet up against the wall. If you need to come a little bit closer, go ahead and move towards your feet. And we want a 90-degree bend at the knees and a 90-degree bend at the hips. Now, if you're feeling a lot of tension in your hip flexors here, go ahead and place your hands and maybe squeeze a little bit. Just make sure that can be really soft. And if you need a little bit more room away from the wall, see if that helps kind of relax those muscles. Okay, so from here, we're going to take our heels and think about dragging them down towards the floor without actually moving them. So we have the wall here for traction, and on your exhale, you drive those heels down towards the floor, and you should feel the backs of your legs turn on. These are our hamstrings here, and we're going to release on the inhale. So not too much movement. You're going to exhale, pull the heels down just to activate the hamstrings. Make sure hips and glutes, so your seat here is really soft. And release on the inhale. Exhale, driving those heels down. And release. Place your hands wherever they need to go. Just for some feedback here, press the heels down and release. Okay, we're going to take it up a notch. So really important here to try to keep your glutes as relaxed as possible. You're going to drive those heels down and then slowly, using only the hamstrings, roll your hips into that posterior pelvic tilt. So the tailbone is going to come off. Your sacrum is going to come off. So all of those like lower bones at the bottom of our spine. And we're just hovering the hips off the ground. My rib cage is still heavy in the mat. And we're just holding for a few rounds of breath here. Now check in, make sure seat is still relaxed. Front of the thighs are relaxed. Low back is really heavy. You don't need to engage the abs too much here. We're really trying to isolate the hamstrings. And then really slowly articulate down one bone at a time until that tailbone reconnects to the floor. Okay, take another breath in here. And then on your exhale, drive the heels down, using only the hamstrings to peel your tailbone off, and then everything else follows. Okay, we're going to stay here for a moment without letting anything change in the hips. We're going to float the right leg off the ground or off the wall and pull it into a little tabletop here. So testing the stability and endurance of our left side, and then lower that foot down. Again, nice and slow. We're all about control here. Still working on activating those hamstrings. That left knee is going to come in. Check in with all those muscles, your seat, the hip flexors. We want to try to keep that relaxed. We're going to march one more time, right leg off the ground, off the wall. Keep saying that. Lower that back down. And then left side off. And then lower down. And then roll down one bone at a time. All right, so the idea there is to, again, activate the hamstrings and try to inhibit some overactive muscles that we have in the seat and in the low back. Now we're going to roll over to one side. You'll stay on the ground though. Your head is resting on the mat, and if you need some support for your neck, just go ahead and find a pillow here. Your bottom arm is going to pull your knees up towards your chest slightly, just enough to hold on. And if that's not accessible for you, just leave your hand down. And then your top arm is going to reach up towards the ceiling. So the key here is to keep the pelvis in place. So that top knee is going to reach forward. And then you're going to open up your chest and pull that elbow down towards the ground into like a goalpost shape, rotating as much as you can. And then reach that arm back up and unwind completely. Inhale, you're going to open up the chest. Find that twist, trying to pull your elbow down towards the ground without letting the hips roll back with you. And then reach that arm all the way up. Now, a great way to progress this is with a weight. So if you have like a 5 or even a 10 pound, just like work your way up appropriately. But it's a great exercise here to try to gain a little bit more mobility in that mid-back area. One more time, opening up that left elbow and reaching all the way. Now, if you're feeling a lot of discomfort in the hips in this position, you can also put a block on your knees. That would be a regression here if having the knees down is a little too intense for you. Now we're gonna roll over to the other side. And just keep moving slowly here through our transitions because we want to try to stay relatively relaxed through all of this work. So bottom hand is going to be on the top knee, and that's just to stabilize it. And then your top arm is reaching up to the ceiling. Now slowly start to roll back. Follow your hand with your gaze, trying to pull that elbow and shoulder down without twisting in the hips. You'll open up, taking an inhale here. And now sequentially move your spine back to neutral on that exhale. Reach that arm all the way up. We're going to take 2 more here. Inhale, pull that elbow down. And exhale, reach it back up. Last time. So sometimes getting a little rotation in there is a great way to unlock some of that flexion. So flexion is when we have that rounded low back. All right, bring your hand down. And then from here, we're just going to slowly come up to sitting. Okay. And then we're going to come onto our hands and knees, and we're going to go up against the wall here. So make sure that your entire side is connected to the wall. Hands are right underneath your shoulders. Knees are right underneath the hips. Now tuck the toes under. We're going to keep the toes on the ground. And that outside leg, so the leg furthest away from the wall, we're going to take that knee off the ground. And it's going to put us into a bit of rotation in the pelvis. And then you're going to drive that knee back down towards the floor. Now we have that barrier of the wall to keep us in alignment so that we're connected more into our obliques, so the sides of our abs. And then pulling up the knee, hip drives up towards the ceiling, and then lower that back down. We're going to take 1 more like that. Pulling up. So this is a really good motion for the SI joint. So that's, again, like kind of that flat back that connects into the hips. And then we're going to turn over to the other side. So come on up. And then bring your hands back down. All right, so resetting here, you're all the way up against the wall. That toes are tucked, that outside leg is going to lift off the ground and it's going to pull you up into a rotation. Now, make sure your leg bones stay parallel to each other. So we don't want to open that knee out to the side. We want to keep the knee pointing down directly to the floor the whole time. We're going to take 3 more. Lift up and pull it down. Last 2. And back down. And last one. And pull down. Yeah, so it doesn't have to be a huge range of motion there, but just enough to get a little movement for that low back. Okay, now we're gonna stay on our hands and knees, but this time we're gonna face away from the wall and our feet are gonna be all the way up against the wall. Now, finding, again, that similar hamstring activation like we did in our first exercise here, you're going to think about pressing the heels into the ground and then into the wall and then pull them up slightly to get some traction for the hamstrings. And again, trying to keep our seat as relaxed as possible, we're going to use the hamstrings to pull our tailbone down into a posterior pelvic tilt. And then you're just gonna reset, coming back to neutral. So using the hamstrings to just pull the low back into that flexion. So a very common compensation, especially if you're lacking some mobility in the low back there, is we're gonna see a lot of movement in the rib cage, so higher up the spine, and it's gonna look more like this, which is gonna create the illusion that our low back is moving, but it's really not. So be really mindful here and maybe record yourself to see if it's actually the low back / the pelvis that's moving and not the rest of your spine. Okay, we're gonna take 2 more. Pull the heels up to pull the tailbone down, and then come back to center. Check in with all those other muscles that tend to compensate, so your hip flexors and your glutes. One more time, heels pull up and back down. So subtle movement there, and even if you don't move at all, even just the activation of the hamstrings and the thought of moving can take you in the right direction. So now we're gonna go down onto our elbows, kind of extending the knees out a little bit, but keeping them on the ground. Now we're gonna do a little stability for the abs here. So you're gonna pull, again, the heels up to find the hamstrings and find a really slight posterior tilt here, and we're just gonna hold here. So a big part of finding more mobility in the low back is proper engagement in our deep core muscles. So sometimes it's really not stretching that we need, but it's more strengthening that we need to alleviate some of those feelings of pain and stiffness. That's the idea here. We're gonna hold here for just 2 more breaths. Check in, make sure that you're still working from the hamstrings. And 2 breaths. And last breath. Great. Now sit back and we'll just go into a little bit of a rest pose here, just sending our hips over our heels and then come right back up. We're gonna flip around for our final exercise of the day, really getting into some movement in the spine. So feet are gonna go up against the wall again. Knees are slightly bent, and be in a position where you can relax the hip flexors and the front of the thighs. You can start with your hands behind your legs, gently pressing the heels into the wall and then down to the floor to again find those hamstrings. If you notice a theme here, our hamstrings are really going to support our low back in all of this work. So really important to find those connections. Now, you're going to use the hamstrings to pull yourself into a posterior tilt, starting to roll back. If you feel strong here, you can float your arms off, and then we're going to roll right back up to stack really tall. So again, just more so pelvic tilts here, using the backs of the legs. And then press into those heels to stack your spine all the way up. And again, heels press down to orient your pelvis backwards. And then roll back up. Now we're gonna take a full roll down here. If that's not accessible for you today, you can always just stick with the pelvic tilts up here. But you're gonna roll back. As soon as you can float those arms, reach them out in front of you, and with as much control as possible, you're gonna roll down, staying connected into that wall, going 1 bone at a time. Lower the head down, reach your arms up. All right, so at this point my microphone fell off. I didn't realize it while I was doing it, so I'm gonna cue the rest with a voiceover. So peeling off 1 bone at a time to come all the way up to stacking. So make sure that the wall was still supportive for you. If you need to come a little bit closer, you can. And then reach those arms back out, using the hamstrings to pull your tailbone into a posterior pelvic tilt and getting the low back, the waist, the ribs the shoulders, the head, reaching your arms as far back as you can maintain your connection to the floor. And then coming all the way back up with control, use that wall to help you. Now you can also challenge yourself and get away from the wall if you have that control and mobility in your spine, but no shame in continuing to use it here. Exhale, rolling all the way back up. And then we're going to take one more here. So driving those heels down, going down one bone at a time. Once you reach the floor, you're going to take an inhale, reach those arms up without arching your back off the floor. And then on that next exhale, you peel back up one bone at a time and stack up nice and tall and rest. All right, I hope that this routine has you feeling a little bit more mobile, a little bit more balanced. Feel free to do this literally any time, but especially after long periods of time sitting or before a workout or exercise to get you activated in all the right places. And if you are enjoying these videos, then please like, subscribe, support the channel so that we can keep offering free, accessible workouts for you at home. All right, enjoy and happy moving.